that in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome today. Today, we're going to be starting off our AI series on demystifying AI. So for this, we've got some great guests. We're going to continue to have great guests. My name is Will Dowling. I'm going to be the host of this series. And with me today, I have two fantastic guys that I'm very excited about being able to talk with. So, gentlemen, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Fantastic might be a stretch for me, but my name is Kyle Jackson. I am responsible for the innovation lab here at ConnectWise. So I get to play with all the fun toys, basically. That's what I do. Keith?
Yeah, I'm Keith Sartain, Senior Director of IT for ConnectWise, making sure that he uses those tools safely.
So, guys, I'm thrilled to have you here today. We've got a lot we want to talk about, right? So with this whole series, we're going to be taking it and starting today, just really breaking down the concepts of AI. What is AI? You know, where is it going? What is really AI as a whole? And as we continue the series, we're going to get even deeper down the rabbit hole. We're going to start talking about very specific use cases. We're going to start talking about, you know, what we're seeing as far as trends industry-wide, both, you know, within ours or within the larger technology industry. So let's just kind of start off with a topic that I feel like a lot of people kind of understand, but there's still a lot of question about that. And that really is, what is AI and how did we get here?
Wow. So that is a loaded question and there's a lot to it. Let me first point out that not only are we live, but we're live and in public. So if for some reason we get somebody hanging out outside the window, we'll do our best to ignore them. But AI, artificial intelligence as a concept, has been around for quite some time. It goes back to Alan Turing, and you know, in that format, I just say historically, as we've heard about AI for years now, decades, artificial intelligence is coming, right? The distinction that needs to be drawn is the difference between the artificial intelligence disciplines, the distinct disciplines that used to exist. Like if you were an AI, you didn't just say you were an AI. You would say I'm an AI, visual, right? I'm focused specifically in on all things visual with image recognition, right? Or maybe you were focused on natural language processing. There's so many different disciplines that from an artificial intelligence perspective, they were really distinct in their lift and their efforts. But then that changed, right, Keith? I mean,
Absolutely.
What was the catalyst that changed for what AI was to what AI is?
Yeah, I think a lot of us point to, and we know that the big work that was Attention Is All You Need is a Google paper. Neural nets have been around for a long time. There was actually kind of an AI winter for a very long period after neural nets were conceived, all the way through the 80s, 90s, and kind of Jeffrey Hinton and that group. A lot of them worked over at Google. In fact, a lot of the disciples that have started all the famous AI companies are kind of disciples of that work. That paper introduced a new mechanism, multi-headed attention, that became kind of the transformer or the T in GPT. And I think that kind of kicked it off. But I'd also point out, that was 2017. Without the computational exponential growth that has happened, we've had 1,000,000x growth in 10 years in GPUs, graphics processing, 1,000,000x in 10 years. And without GPU computations of the matrix math that's needed for these things, it wouldn't have happened. Or we at least wouldn't be where we are today if we had to depend on CPUs or another method. And without that 1,000,000x growth, we wouldn't be talking. We wouldn't be sitting here right now. So it was an algorithmic revolution that started with GPT, a whole bunch of other work, not just transformers. plus computational growth, and that convergence of opportunity and people working hard on it has brought us here, really.
Yes, I mean it really is critical to harp on that point. It's multiple technologies really coming to a point, and their growth patterns overlapping at the right time, right? And again, that computational growth, it's some people are surprised that NVIDIA is at the center of all the hardware that's carrying the compute load at this point. But it makes sense if you go back and look at computationally, like GPUs, graphic processing units, were the most intensive computational use anybody was going to put an effort through anyway. So they really were driving forward with that. So that's really how we got to here. With attention is all you need with that paper, which as Google as a foundry of AI research, you got to think all these major institutions were investing billions for years and years and years, but that really kicked it off. What was really surprising is that they didn't really lean into it in the same way that OpenAI paid attention. OpenAI came on the scene for the general public in the end of October of 2022, right? That's when we all really paid attention. They've been around since 2015. So when this came out in 2017, they really paid attention and took off with it.
That same day.
Yeah.
So Sutskever in an interview said that the OpenAI chief scientist, I think, or whatever his title is, but a lot of the hard work in AI came from him and his group. But he said the OpenAI read it and that same day quit what they were doing and started doing the GPT models.
Oh wow!
They all the recurrent neural networks, the CNNs, everything they'd done before, just stopped and knew that was the path. So talked to everybody in the company and they switched that day. So they knew it the day they read it and they moved with it. Google, we all wonder why Google, with all the horsepower they have, didn't lead it. I've heard different reasons, but I also think they're conflicted a little bit because they're so ad revenue focused, and AI could be a threat to that. Now, is that the reason they didn't lead it, or are they still waiting to drop a bomb and surprise us all? It looks like every time, that someone announces something, they have something to announce. So that's a fighter I wouldn't count out. They may not be the leader coming around the bend, but they are definitely formidable.
They certainly have the data.
Yeah,
they certainly have the data.
Data's a big thing too. I mean, we've talked about that in previous AI sessions we've done, Kyle. I mean, Keith and I talk about all the time. Data's king. So let's talk a little bit about just some of the misconceptions on AI, guys. Right? Like, we talk about it as artificial intelligence, right? But is there perhaps a more relevant term that we use, something like applied intelligence? What's the difference? Why?
Yeah, I mean, I like to refer to transformers, GPTs, as kind of feigned or faked intelligence. To be fair, GPT-4 doesn't really know the answer that it's giving. It doesn't have full context and understanding as an entity or a being, if you will, if we can say that, of the information that it's spewing back. It is truly just algorithmic based responses on what is the best response or the next word in the combination of words that you gave me and the prompts that I received in the initial prompt. What's the next best word?
Right.
What's the next best word? What's the next best word? Now, again, future facing here, what they're toying around with now with energy based models as opposed to token based models, there's difference there where they're approaching it from a different angle, and that will have an understanding. But as far as like being afraid of AI taking over the world, GPTs are not going to take over the world.
Right.
They're not intelligent in that way. But if we just look at even from 2022, the end of 2022 to where we are now, the massive amount of capabilities, right? It's how far it's traversed from then to now. and how useful we're finding these little functional capabilities tying into our little everyday processes. It's game changer type technology, truly revolutionizing the way we are going to approach delivering outcomes. There's no way around it.
Yeah, and I think you could look at large language models or any of these next token predictors or next pixel predictors or whatever, all the different ways we apply AI and say that they're kind of faking it until they make it, right? They have been rewarded with enough treats for saying the right answer that they learn how to say the right answer. I think that's one way to look at it, but another way to look at it would be to say, at what level do they fake it, and then it's right enough for the use case that I have. So right now, one of the things and why transformers really are the thing that set this off is they can accept more data like nothing else. All of the other things, even with computational growth, you couldn't have used the old models the way that you can this. And this allows more data. And I know that Elon is in the news for suing people.
But happy right now.
Yeah.
But I think he knew and he knows that it was going to take data, and he was trying to find that $1 billion to go after, because the computational overhead to put that much data in it is really expensive to run. And he knew, he kind of knows that, and everybody, that's what transformers really allowed, is that scale. So once the computational caught up, just a year and a half ago, we're talking about GPT-3.5 with 175 billion parameters. We're at 1.8 trillion today. I think the next one will be between 10 and 20 when we talk about 5th generation models, 20 trillion. Like these are major leaps. And every time we do one of these, we may get slightly less hallucinations. Hallucinations being, I made stuff up and I'm just going to confidently say it, whether that's one of the things AIs will do, right? Is they'll confidently say anything and it may not be right.
Correct.
And I think it's not just scale alone, but some algorithmic improvements will reduce that. Now, the real question is, when does it reduce it enough for the use case that you have?
And I think that's a very good point you have, is, with every model, they're becoming more and more reliable. Hallucinations are, everyone on the internet loves them. They're hilarious half of the time. But, really it's just driving that model and expanding on it that really continues to drive the reliability, right? Let's talk a little bit about that, some of the challenges you guys have seen.
Yeah, so Sam Altman himself, right, CEO of OpenAI, it made reference just a few weeks ago, probably about 2 weeks ago, in a talk where he said, if GPT-4 gives an answer 1 out of 10,000 times, right, it's going to give you that great answer.
Yeah.
What they're really focusing on is how do they get that 1 out of 10,000 every time? And that responsiveness and that the reality is when we're talking about the accuracy of the response, right? When it's just me asking it information, that's one thing. But if I'm using this conversationally or in line with my conversation with the customer, it's a whole nother level of reliability that I need to trust on. And I believe what's fantastic about the transformer and the GPT model is really the more information you give it, the more reliable it becomes. And there was no secret to that right, from the beginning.
Right.
From the beginning, they realized if they gave it more information, that the percentage response being good would go up. When they first started, with 2.5, theory of mind had it at about the equivalent of a 7-year-old.
Right.
The theory of mind is basically my ability to read through the subcontext in a conversation. You and I are doing it visually at a table, and you're acknowledging what I'm saying with your little head nod and your smirk. Yep. Right. But that's hard to do in flat text. Yeah. Right. So our ability to read through subtext, that's what theory of mind was. Well, beyond 2.5, it went into like a 9-year-old, and 4 is almost a full-on adult. So the ability to have subcontext and understanding in language and flat text, it's incredible. I can't wait for what 5 allows for that. And the only difference here is the amount and volume of consumed data that it has. So as these models grow larger and larger, the fine tuning of its accuracy is just going to continue to hit the point.
And I think they've touched on the idea. And there's names around it, and lots of rumors, but I think it's no secret that there's probably an algorithmic improvement. People have given that a name. We don't know if that's what they use. So, we think that there's an algorithmic improvement there. I suspect the other guys have it, right? A lot of these things we find out later were derivatives of papers written 3 or 4 years earlier that are open. And now maybe it did take a lot of special sauce to take that paper into something that was usable, but we do expect an algorithmic improvement and not just a data and computational improvement with the next one. And even Sam said, "What would you say about GPT-4?" And he says that kind of sucks. Right. So, if we have an 18-month window where GPT-5 kind of sucks relative to GPT-6, then that kind of gives you a horizon where you could say, maybe I can predict when this use case will hallucinate so few times that I would use it for that use case, or it will give me what I want for that use case, precise enough that I feel comfortable with it. Now, being a doctor or a brain surgeon, that's probably going to be GPT-22. But to generate a summary of an email, we're probably already there. But think about your use case and which model and how much reliability did you need. And the only other thing I would add, all of the models right now are still man in the middle. Yeah. Right. So you're still augmenting a human, right? And we're still giving that answer. So there's a filtering mechanism before it kind of goes live. And I think that'll be true for some time, that it will supplement a human for a while and make a human more, when it hallucinates, hopefully we have someone that knows that confidently said the wrong thing.
Well, and I think that actually brings us to a really good segue to talk a little bit about that. I know there's a lot of fear right now from a lot of industries going, oh my God, this is going to put me out of business, right? But like you said, man in the middle is very important. Let's talk about kind of what that importance means, and if we're talking about AI and what it's going to do to our industry, for example. I mean, let's kind of explore that. Let's talk about what we're looking at. Are we, oh my God, everyone's going out of business? No, I don't think so. I think it's, again, going to be very important for us to continue to have that man in the middle and really drive the importance of that for everyone. So let's dig into that.
So Keith, your day job is managing all 3,200 plus,
managing Kyle, yes.
3,300 plus of us, right?
Yeah.
Your plan is not to replace your help desk or the current lift, right? You're enabling, you're assisting, you're building on top of, you're going to streamline efforts. Talk about that.
Absolutely. And I think, the man in the middle paradigm is great. I think we can look at a lot of different roles, break those down into separate tasks that we do, and say, where can this task be optimized? Can I get that technician data faster so that they can respond faster? Can I get them data more accurately so they can execute better? Can I give them data that they didn't have because they haven't been here long enough to know that use case or that edge case? Can I get that to them so that they can execute faster? And that's where I can get more output per person. And, I was talking about this with someone else, like the AI apocalypse is, I can't tell you what 20 years looks like.
Right.
But people being more productive has always benefited everyone.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's always made companies more wealthy, and it's made, life quality better. When you can be more productive, that's a better society. We measure economies by the output per person. If the output per person goes up, there's a potential that we have a Goldilocks period where this is actually positive. Yeah. Things become cheaper because we can get them assisted to be made in the first place, and we can get more out of the people that we have. And I think for the MSP, there's going to be a window where some of the break fix work and some of the support work and some of these things, these kind of necessary evils of the MSP business are augmented, and we're getting more output per individual. I think we're too early to say when it goes. I think everybody can think about the cliff. I think it gets better before that happens, but I think man in the middle will persist for quite a long time, and that man in the middle will get better at what they do.
And then here's the reality with this is yes, will there be wins in technology that drive outcomes that might reduce headcount? And let's be specific. Will that happen in the MSP world? Yeah, why not, right? The timeline is the big question, but the reality here, and what Keith just referred to, is the way that we mitigate that and the way that we manage that. So let's say one of the major players in the space, one of the big tech five, decide they're going to build a bot that focuses on supporting end users, and it solves for the low-hanging fruit of level 1 technicians, right? Right. Who in the MSP world would not be happy with giving up the headache and pain of level 1 support? But there's a potential revenue loss in letting that job go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we look as an opportunity, well, one, there's an opportunity because new technology is entering into an office. Anytime that happens, right? It's a 4-letter word. Users a 4-letter word for a reason, right? They don't understand. And they'll need the MSP and the ITSP or whatever the acronym you want to use to describe your technology business. They will need you to support that.
Yeah.
And there's a new thing that they're going to need help with. The other side of that, and the fact that there might be some potential loss of a revenue stream because some bot's going to take level 1 support away. Well, who understands level 1 support for your customer? You do.
Yeah.
You've spent years cultivating the right operating procedures and the right processes and the right methods. You've built out all of that. And guess what? We got that data, right? We know how you support that customer. We know how you respond to that printer issue at 5 o'clock on a Friday. We know that Susan has issues printing checks once a month. We know that. So if we can take your data and use that as a driving force to supplement that level 1 support effort and still drive the same great outcome, but use a bot in the process to help deliver that, then I think there's a win-win-win for everybody here.
Yeah.
Right. We're going to give your customers a better experience. We're going to give them quicker responses and better outcomes. And we're going to do it with your data right at the heart of it, because at the core, that's what your company is a string of best practices that you deliver on. If we can take those best practices and deliver on them, why wouldn't you do that? So that there's real value to be had for the MSP landscape with being a part of that displacement even of themselves. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's really one of those things where as you're looking at those opportunities, yes, we're talking about potentially getting rid of things like tier 1, right? That's fine. But at the same time, it's not even about reducing headcount. I was talking to some of our partners recently, and one partner in particular, from Decision Digital, Rick Arbor, you guys probably know him, said to me, I'm looking at a time now where I may have the most number of techs that I will ever have within the next 18 months. But I'm not looking at minimizing, or I'm not getting rid of people. I'm looking at taking what I've got and doing more with that. And I feel like that's really the opportunity we have to be able to help drive that and be able to help drive that transformational period. It's not so much hey, you're going to get rid of all your tier 1 technicians, right? They're going to become things like bot managers at that point. So they're going to be the ones QAing and making sure that, hey, these bots are actually doing what they're supposed to do, right?
Yep.
So let's dig into that.
We got an audible coming. Tony,
Okay.
there's a seat over here already. There's a chair over here already. Tony Thomas, our VP of strategy, just happened to walk in. So if you slip in behind.
Come on in, Tony. How's it going?
Hi. So we're live.
Talk about one of your
Tony,
favorite.
are you guys freestyling?
We're live on a webinar in a round table with downtown Tampa behind us.
Downtown Tampa. I like it.
Talking about AI.
Yeah, man.
All right.
So
favorite topic of ours.
hit Tony with your question, because I think Tony's a good question for Tony.
So, Tony, as we're looking at what we're doing with AI, right? and where we're going with it. We're not really talking about, getting rid of your tier one technicians. We're talking about taking them and upskilling them, making them more efficient, right?
Yeah.
Let's dig into that, man. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Look, I think so. I think it was deliberate that we called our generative AI technology sidekick.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Reason why is they're not the hero. It's not the hero.
Right.
Right. It's the sidekick.
Mhm.
So when we think about that expression, it's all about making everybody a power user, a super user, right? And what is every superhero, heroine, hero, or even villain?
Yeah,
They all need a sidekick,
Everyone needs a sidekick.
right? And I think that's an expression of what it means to augment
Mhm.
business models with this type of technology, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I would even go just sort of one step further in this. You don't just provide a technology, you have to create an environment where people can experiment with that technology. Right?
Absolutely.
So when we think about robotic process automation, we don't just include these bots out of the box. We include a robotic process automation environment for you to develop and redevelop
Mhm.
and upgrade these things.
Absolutely.
Right? So, I think if you think about artificial intelligence as something that could help you reclaim your time, reclaim your capacity, I know what it does for me every day. It helps me mentally spar and look for blind spots, and
That's a good one.
add creative, challenging to all the things that I do. Right. So that's how I look at what we've created here.
That's awesome.
What
Now,
else we got?
let's talk about, if we're talking through a lot of these areas, where do you guys see the biggest opportunities for MSPs and for new areas that they can expand into? I mean, just in AI in general. Let's talk about that. Let's go around the table.
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, AI is going to be delivered in a couple of different components.
Mhm.
Your line of business applications, the Dino software. There isn't a software company on the planet right now evaluating how they can enhance processes or some functionality inside their products. So you will start to see additional AI functionality being delivered in line in applications. That's one. So your customers are obviously going to need help navigating the risk of that, right? With any new technology, any new enhancement to how data is being used and ciphered through systems. It's important for us to understand that, Keith, right? I mean, from a risk and compliance perspective, I'd say number one, it's another box that we need to have an understanding of what's happening with my data in these environments, be it the inline application or the chatbot or the others. So, I mean, how from an MSP perspective, from compliance, how's that fit?
Oh yeah, they have even a bigger challenge than we do. So we know what our data is, right?
Yeah.
So, and we know how to protect it. We put in controls, and we have enterprise level controls on how we can control exfiltration of our data. An MSP has an extra level of challenges, and they have multiple customers that they have to think about. And when you're thinking about these AIs, you got to make sure what data is protected, what's going to the model, what could be exfiltrated, what could be compromised. That's a whole nother level that MSPs can bring their level of expertise to help their partners navigate the landscape of AI, where their dangers are, what's the right use cases, where they can optimize and how they can protect themselves. And I think that's a place where they can provide value to those customers to make sure that they're in the right position.
I mean, it's hot, right? It's happening.
Yeah.
And there's in some cases little to no control from the end user's perspective of it's being inserted into an application. So it's another opportunity for MSPs to engage in meaningful discussions about cybersecurity.
Mhm.
And if there were ever an opportunity where gas is being thrown on the fire to talk about data, and the security around the data, right? As a fuel or entity in the world, data is the most important thing that is going to drive forward from this day forward. Data is going to be the most important currency. So your customers' data is what keeps them in business, right? It's what keeps them operating. Take away their data and watch what happens to their business, right? And enter the cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Right. And the bad guys, right? The threat actors, they take away their data, and look what happens to their business. They shut down. So here's another opportunity, a boom for MSPs to use this not as fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but as real. This exists. This is happening. Your data is important. How do we not only protect it, but also on the flip side of it, how do we wield it and use it for the benefit of our company? How do we have it be a multiplier, an extension of us? How can we be better at the business that we do? How can we serve our customers better? These are opportunities that MSPs should have been, if they aren't already delivering. You should have been doing this already. But if you're not, this is the perfect window that's been created and put in front of you to say, how can we enhance what you're doing now and leverage this new technology as a vehicle to be better? And that is the catalyst that MSPs should see this as. The challenge is going to be, what horse do they get behind, right? Where are they attaching? There's going to be some winners. There's going to be some technologies out there. And if you look at the startup landscape, the AI startup landscape is growing faster than any other technology boom we've ever had in technology booms ever. So there's going to be no shortage of answers to the questions, which is the perfect opportunity for MSPs. Right. And Tony, this is exactly what MSPs exist for, helping their customers navigate the challenges of technology. And here's a new technology that their customers will never understand.
Yeah, let's time travel back to 2018.
Yeah.
There was something that happened in 2018 that caused the entire industry to build a new set of disciplines. It's called cybersecurity or threat management.
Yeah.
We went from filtering and block listing to threat management, to detection, to response, to reducing the blast zone when any of these types of attacks detonate. And we had to enter into sort of the first principles of any type of new technology era discipline. First, you got to get it right in your house.
Yep.
Okay. So you got to put this new form of AI, and AI has been around for a little bit, but this new form of AI, the generative form of AI, is a digital worker like no other. It's an exponential curve. MSPs, even ConnectWise, we have to master all of this in our own house.
Yep.
In 2018, we started a 5-year journey, and look at us now. Look at where the entire industry is right now. You can't throw a stone without hitting the components that create the discipline of cybersecurity and threat management.
Absolutely.
The same thing will happen when it comes to this new sort of generative era of artificial intelligence, right? Protect your house, get your house in order, build the disciplines, the standard operating procedures, process mine, create value. Trust and transparency for ConnectWise is a big thing. We have to build that discipline, right? We have a trust site. Our trust site was created during the cybersecurity era. That trust site will now serve as here's how privacy matters to us. Here's what happens when your usage of our hyperautomation platform gets engaged with your own data, with various elements of how to reduce any exposure that you may see, and whatever documents you need to prove that, because guess what? You're moving to the third area of discipline, your end clients, right? So what happened with the discipline with MSPs and end clients is they had to learn to sell the value of that, and it created a new revenue stream. But end clients had to be receptive to something like that.
Right.
Enter Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. It's already sitting in the platform. You know this because we're leveraging all of it internally right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
The amount of productivity that you gain from a Copilot or a sidekick isn't replacing out a person. It's augmenting and enhancing their ability to operate in a much more trusted, transparent, effective way. It's the same thing. So I'm an MSP. I'm going outside to my end client and going, hey, you already do Office 365 stuff. Got this level of incremental value that we can manage for you now called Copilot.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how to do that. So now you have the entire supply chain working across all of those new disciplines that we are not new to.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fantastic point. Like you mentioned, Copilot, Sidekick, they drive a lot of efficiency. I mean, it's one of those things where when you look at what you do multiple times every day, getting rid of it just gives you more time to focus on what's actually important for your business. I know I use our Copilot fairly regularly. It's great for doing like, hey, I need a summary slide for all of these things that I've done on a PowerPoint presentation. It can build it for you very quickly, very easily. I don't have to sit and do that anymore.
Yep.
But, I feel like, we're a fairly large company. As far as MSPs go, right, guys? What do we think about size-wise for MSPs? Is there a certain size of people that need to be leveraging AI? Is there, because I've heard from a lot of partners, hey, we're like a 3-man shop. I don't think we're ever going to need AI. I mean, I disagree on that. What are y'all's thoughts?
I say they need it more.
Yeah,
honestly,
absolutely.
That it's a multiplier, and without that multiplier, you're gonna lag behind.
Right.
The reality is MSPs at large are going to embrace the technology. So if you're not embracing the technology, you will be behind. There's no way around that. And I think by embracing the technology and understanding how it's going to benefit their own functional daily uses, right? How am I going to be better at my job as an MSP and leveraging AI or hyperautomation to drive to that outcome? They're just going to experience the value and benefits as the perfect example to carry it forward to their customers. Here's the reality, and I don't think there's an MSP out there that would argue me with this, is their customers are already asking questions.
Right.
Customers are already engaging in the how can we carry forward some benefits from this technology. So it's not an if they do it, they have to. This is table stakes technology they have to engage in, and the benefits to them and their customers are even at the lowest rung, even at the surface level, are going to be worth the effort.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about high value, high risk, high level analysis of like how AI is going to benefit my finance organization, right? I'm talking about the ground level data entry people who are dealing with, mundane processes. That's going to change the game.
I would go one step further and say that, at ConnectWise, we leverage our business transformation thinking when we apply these types of new technologies, right? So I'll give you an example of this business transformation level thinking that we've been curating and activating within the community to our delight, really, in what it's doing, modes theory, right? No matter what mode of business you're in, you're a startup, you're trying to survive your first 3 years in the MSP space.
Yeah.
Okay. You're trying to break through. Having AI operate all of the different jobs to be done a business model has to take on significantly reduces your success, your failure, significantly reduces your failure in that first 3 years, increases your success factor.
Right.
Enter what we would call a balance builder, somebody that is balancing life and work. AI keeps you relevant. Okay. So the upskilling of your people in a balance builder business, you reduce the cost to do that because you're leveraging AI in ways that make you actually much more intelligent in terms of delivering service, responding, etc. Value builder, a certain percentage of reputable growth, 10 to 12% year over year. How do you do that if you're not engaging in labor arbitrage, which happens to be one of the biggest 3 line items of COGS within a MSP business? And then take empire builders, whether you're PE-backed, hyper, or you're growing at a 20% rate, rapid. Scale is your number one risk.
Yeah.
Right? Because mistakes happen when you try to scale too fast. You cannot cheat maturity, but what you can do is you can rapidly evolve with this type of technology. And that in itself gives us the ability to understand how to create fit in that journey that our partners are taking. And more importantly, the 8 practice areas within any of those businesses, breadth and depth of those practice areas, right? Owner requirements, sales, engineering requirements, service requirements, HR operator requirements, finance requirements, marketing requirements, sales requirements. All of that operates in a business. AI can be applied to every one of those practice areas.
Yeah, that's good. I'd also add that I think we talk about convergence of technologies, things that are available now. And AI is kind of a way to encode language and smarts and some information. But for an MSP, we talk about RPA, robotic process automation. That needs to be thought of as a way that you can encode your knowledge to make it repeatable. I hear all the time from the MSPs, man, I've got 8 techs and 6 of them do the right thing every time, right? But I got 2 that I just wish that would, and they're new or whatever. Yeah. But that's you can encode that. You can encode that in a routine inside of robotic process automation that defines you and the way you want things done and the way you want to repeat those. That applies no matter what size you are. If you're really small and you have something you want to make sure works and you got one sharp guy that understands one system, have him make a routine that he can give to the other 2 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So they can do it when he's not there. But as you get bigger, you get more generalized roles. Well, you want those generalized roles to do the same thing every time, at least for the things that are well known.
Yeah.
You can encode those. You have a method to encode those. Just as AI encodes trillions of tokens of knowledge, you have the ability to make repeatable processes. And I think AI and RPA themselves may converge and create some opportunities too over time.
But what about scripting, right? I mean, we get that answer, that question all the time. What about scripting? I already have this scripting. I don't think many people understand the difference between scripting and RPA. There's a mega difference there. You want to talk about that a little bit?
So I think that's scripting is where you start, right? And what you find is that you'll have individuals that have their own script that runs from one place and may work against this machine, may not work against that one. Is it repeatable? Is it something that is perfectly defined and repeatable every time and isn't error prone?
That's right.
And can take finite inputs and give you a predictable response and do that in your absence in a way that is robust and secure. You can't just run everything as global admin. That's, well, not in my shop, you can't.
Right. You like to live on the risky side of business.
Right. And when you write scripts, you always have these kind of, you have to open things up and because it's more challenging to do. Having a well-defined, concrete implementation of something that's robust and can do a little more than a script. A classic RPA may be able to replay things that it sees in a user interface and may be able to collect data from systems in a way that's more robust. And I think that's where we go when we talk about RPA. It's robotic process automation. It's more than just what one person can run from their desktop. Right. Yes, can you pull it off? And you got a genius that can do it. Yeah, but is it secure? Does it work?
You nailed it.
Is it reliable?
You know who outnumbers the scripters in the world? Citizen developers.
Yep, right.
People that know logic can just talk. You know what the new coding language is? It's English.
Yeah.
It's English.
Absolutely.
But putting it in an RPA bot lends itself to debugging, containment, chaining, scripting, QA quickly.
Right.
Quickly. So the software development lifecycle that takes being a product manager, scrum leader, et cetera, so on and so forth, takes a massive amount of time. Absolutely. But an RPA bot, well, there's a bot for that.
Yeah.
And there's an environment where you can tell it what you want it to do in English and then put it into a test environment, see if it does that, and you get all the other benefits of that contained routine.
Absolutely.
Big time.
Repeatable and delegatable. You can give it to another person, or you can and you can improve it over time. So when you find that edge case, you know, you don't have the one guy that's a great scripter, and if he doesn't run it, maybe it works and maybe it doesn't.
Right.
You've encoded the best knowledge of your best people into something that you can keep doing time after time.
One that you like a lot is community sharing. Imagine open sourcing this stuff.
Right.
And having it editable and other people can contribute to it. That's the future of what's going to happen here.
I mean, even when we're talking about AI modeling, like that's, being able to have specifically trained AI models that are perfect for this specific task versus that specific task. That's one thing that's awesome about, what we're doing with a lot of our AI services in the ACO platform is when we find a model that's perfect for a use case, we can just plug it in. We're not having to sit there and retrain a model or rebuild a model. There's a lot of people who are like, well, yeah, great. My technicians are going to use this, right? But it's not just for technicians. Like, let's kind of go around. Keith, I want to start with you this time. Let's talk about who is AI actually for in a business?
Well, I had a long conversation about the sales enablement today, right? So there Lots of different so many use cases. Competitive intel they spend time on, data entry. They have multiple systems that they need to put data into and get data from for everything that they do. That's one. I get questions from our service group. They want to be able to hear what, summarize what was said from the last conversation and any action points that they didn't capture. They want that. AI can do that. AI can take that conversation and decode it and turn it into actionable steps, capture what you missed, take notes, put that into a system of record. They can do that kind of thing. Our finance guys, they're wanting it to do better analysis. Ask, even the sales guys said, well, we put these spreadsheets together and then we want to say, well, what was our summary of sales for this product category for last month? And I'm like, well, I think I can do that in Excel. I'll pull up Excel Copilot and it does it in 20 seconds, right?
Perfect.
And it goes, all of these shave time for us. All of these are benefits to us. So it's, I think in marketing, they're looking at it for everybody. It's hard to leave anybody out,
right,
in this AI revolution. It feels like there's a use case for every part of the organization.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Kyle, got any additional thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I'm just going to say ditto. I mean, the reality is we are not, we'll go back to jobs to be done, Tony, as a product manager. Jobs to be done is a framework that as a product management organization that ConnectWise has product managers, we look at what jobs need to be accomplished by our end customer, by our users, by our partners. And we look at those jobs that they're trying to accomplish and say, can we make those jobs easier? Right? That framework is a way to look at it and break it down. Well, I think our partners will benefit from taking the same approach, looking at their end clients and understanding what jobs are they actually accomplishing. And the reality is, when you lay it out on paper and say, all right, I have these 8 different departments in this business that I support, but it turns out that 6 of them have processes that at least half of the processes is mirrored. Right? They're doing the same things. They're just doing it on different data, or they're doing it in a different place. So once we figure out, hey, there's these 17 jobs that are being done in this business or in this department, and I can identify those tasks that are being accomplished, then I can start mapping to the technology and the outcomes for streamlining that effort. So our partners, it would really behoove them to once again, I believe you're already doing this, but start to know your customers, start to know what they're doing, and the deeper and more in tune you are with their operations and their businesses and what TPS reports actually accomplish in their business, then the faster and easier it will be to drive outcomes that streamline those efforts.
Yeah, you're not just managing their software anymore.
Be it RPA, be it a workflow engine, be it AI, at whatever level, it starts with listening and understanding what tasks are actually being accomplished. It's so basic.
I think we're approaching the dawn of the trusted IT person, switching now to a digital operating partner.
Right.
You call him a Sherpa.
I call him Sherpa because an operating partner shouldn't be hidden in the server room.
Right.
They should be walking with a business on their journey of growth through this new digital economy that we have, which there is no other economy. It's all digital. And that means the stakes are higher, but the rewards are also higher, right? A business owner of an MSP, they're not a chief legal officer. They can certainly act like one now with AI, right? That reclaims time, that upskills quickly. I'm not saying it's not void of hallucination, but with any technology, it shouldn't own you. It should augment you, right? It shouldn't drive you. It should inform you, right? Go across any of the practice areas and you'll find a little unit of pain that AI can inform or augment you to reclaim the most unrenewable resource known to mankind, time.
Absolutely.
What would you do with it if you could have it back?
There's not an MSP out there that doesn't have a whiteboard full of projects that they wish they could get to either internally or with their customers. And if it's with their customers, that's a project, that's revenue generation, right?
And even internally it could be, because that's, hey, I want to do this thing to make us more efficient, right? We'll have the time to do that eventually. But guess what? If you're starting to leverage AI more, you're going to have the time to do that.
It's a form of currency.
Yeah, absolutely. Time is probably the greatest currency of
That's
all.
right.
Speaking of time, I think we're
Yeah, we're 10 minutes out. So let's
were there questions? Were there anything that came in from anybody that seemed relevant? Sorry, we lost our screen, so we don't really have the ability to see.
Yeah.
Are there statistics that get ConnectWise has been able to collect on how much more efficient colleagues have become from leveraging AI for internal purposes? Would love to see some stats, if not now, definitely in the future.
all right.
Yeah.
So let's repeat the question.
Yeah. So the question was, are there statistics that ConnectWise has recognized in the benefit of leveraging an RPA or an AI hyper automation technology? And yes, we've looked at our own processes and understand the value of that and are tracking and managing that. So it's a great question. I think it's probably pertinent for us to capture that and carry that into the next conversation.
Yeah.
Well, we have it. We have it. If you go to YouTube
Mhm.
and you search IT Nation 2023 Jason McGee's keynote,
Yep.
that entire grid was
Yeah,
built
true.
off of empirical evidence that we
Yeah.
collected over 12 to 18 months.
Yep.
It's got logical consistency associated with all of those practice areas because we have SLI and nobody else has that.
Correct.
Right. And oh, by the way, it's relevant to a purpose-built MSP world. It's not like this middle jelly of
Generic
conjecture.
Microsoft data, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is purpose built.
Mhm.
Right. And you'll see many more webinars expressing our Automation Nation's success program element of it and what people are doing to implement, what they're actually mining in terms of opportunity costs getting reduced,
Yeah.
time savings.
Time.
Like, I'll never use the word ROI. Again, I think it's a fallacy as a person that created products before.
Right.
But what this can do is reduce your opportunity costs and get your time back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All comes down to time, I think.
Garrett, with anything else?
See anything?
Okay. So, and we've got just a few minutes left, guys. Anything you guys want to say closing thoughts wise?
Listen, I'm gonna open up a whole new avenue for conversations, but like part of there are some days when I walk out of the office at home. I think I've probably said this to you before, Will, and my wife looks at me and says, "What's wrong?" And I was like, I'm just thinking about the future. Maybe we should go buy a farm. I don't really know, right? I don't really know, and it comes down to the answer of I don't really know, right? There are going to be ebbs and flows with any new technology, right? There are ebbs and flows to how this technology is going to impact the world. I am bullish when it comes to the opportunity. I am more excited than I am afraid about what AI means for even my kids, right? And what it means for the world they're going to live in. Are there things we need to be paid close attention to and be aware of and make sure as consumers that we demand and call for? Yes, absolutely. Truth in data and truth in training and transparency, 100%. We should, as consumers, drive for all of that, so that we can understand bias and the risk associated with that in these models. That being said, when I think about the future and AI and all the convergence of these technologies, we're talking about robotics and how this is going to impact just the daily lives. It feels Jetson-esque, right? and it doesn't feel that far off,
Right.
to say, hey, all of blockchain and augmented reality and robotics and AI, all of these things come together at once are really speeding up the pace of innovation. And I'm just super excited about what it means for the world. Super excited about what it means for those who Sherpa technology, as like our MSPs and our customers, our clients do. I really feel like the next 15 to 20 years are going to be amazing. And the path, being alive during this process is going to be awesome. To be able to say, talking to grandkids, yeah, I remember a time when we didn't have this. What? Right? It's like color TV.
Yeah.
Right? What do you mean you watch TV in black and white? It's almost unfathomable today to consider that. So I'm so excited about the potential, and I'm so excited about going down this path with MSPs, because in my job I get to play, right? And think about the future. And the more I think about the future for MSPs and this technology, the more opportunity that I can't help but see the opportunity for MSPs.
Absolutely agreed, Keith.
Yeah, and I would echo that and add, I feel so many parallels having watched the internet, being old enough to have seen the internet come along. And the more that I learn about where we are in this journey, I still think that even with GPT-4, as good as it is, we're kind of still on dial-up.
Yeah.
We're not, Amazon couldn't have existed.
Mhm.
Right, the true revolution could not have existed until a convergence of a few opportunities, and that was broadband, and it was a browser, and it was Google. Like, I think there were some things that needed to happen. Like, people understood the buzz, and the people that were the insiders and the geeks that kind of got it, but everybody else was, I'm not sure, this isn't that cool. I mean, okay, I surfed a little bit, but is that really that good? But then, what the world turned into, including what ConnectWise is, couldn't have happened until that happened. But imagining those industries and imagining those opportunities, and that's one of the reasons that we really try to make sure that we're in front of everything that's happening with AI. Is like, we don't know exactly what is going to present itself, but we want to make sure we know enough so that when it does, we can execute on it. And I think that's what's important, and that's why we kind of spend a lot of spare time making sure that we understand the state of the art and what we're doing.
Akin to physics, here are the 3 laws that govern technology. Metcalfe's law. Robert Metcalfe was a keynote speaker at Automation Nation Lab Tech Days. Essentially, it's a law about network effects. How we translate that is community. If communities come together and begin to pioneer and use the technology, it starts to create value for the greater community. Okay, this is why ConnectWise is a community company, full stop. You can't introduce technology and actually hope it succeeds if you divorce it from an investment in community.
Right.
The second law is Moore's law. Smaller, cheaper, faster. In other words, lower cost to adopting something. Right. Okay. ConnectWise has to make it so it's lower cost to adopt something like this in a safe, ethical, trusted, and transparent way. Hard to do that if you're not also owning the data. Okay. Amara's law. We overestimate the short term. We underestimate the long term. ASIO is a platform as a service play. We are both playing the short term, Sidekick, RPA environments, workflow, and the long term, purpose-built data. If you have a foundation of purpose-built training data, you will play the long game in ways that others will never be able to play the long game. But there's room for cooperative games, because you can't get Metcalfe's law without inviting strong competition.
Absolutely.
Because it makes everybody better. So let's focus on growth, or as I always like to say, LFG.
Let's go.
Let's go.
So I will add to this. One of the things that makes me excited about AI and ConnectWise is the breadth of our data.
Yeah.
And not just the breadth of our data, but also the tune and color and flavor of our data. We have unique data sets within our portfolio that allow us to filter in ways that others just could only hope and dream for. So when it comes to driving outcomes with AI and hyperautomation, we really have a strong place to stand.
Yeah.
And I truly believe when it comes to the MSPs holding value and maintaining that value with their clients, it's going to come down to delivering services through AI and bots and hyperautomation that are specific to your data, which we house, and we have the ability to help you wield in these technologies. So that's where we look at the landscape of how, if the big guys are going to be a threat to our landscape. I don't think so, because they have broad data. We have specific data. And I look at the little guys coming in the space thing and, oh, that's great, that's cute. They don't have enough data to be relevant. So we really stand at a unique place as ConnectWise with the data. The question is, will we deliver? Can we deliver when we get to it? So you're starting to see little hints and flavors of that. And I'm super excited for you to see the true evidence of that.
Yeah.
And the fact that what we will be able to enable with AI in line with our core applications should change the way you do business as an MSP.
It's going to be atomic, right? Just like our keynote speaker, James Clear, in 2022 2, I think it was talked about. We're going nano with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we're going to get down to the smallest units of truth that are actionable for a purpose-built world that we serve in that world only, the
Love it.
MSP industry.
Hey, it's my understanding that we might have had some bitrate problems, so the video might not have been the greatest quality. But I will tell you that Tony Thomas joining us had no effect on that. He is one of the most handsome men in the building. So if you're not getting that at high def, we are sorry. We will figure that out for the next time. Sorry if that
I think
was,
there's an AI that can actually make all of that.
Oh,
we'll do it in reverse,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah, we will make it better. But
All right.
I think
Well,
we're there.
I, for one, am excited about our next session for doing this, which I believe is in 2 weeks. So we're going to be continuing the trend of breaking down AI, talking about what's important for everyone, really. And we're going to be taking this again from this wide level that we started with today down to the narrow. We're going to go down some wormholes, really going to drive a lot of thoughtful conversation. We are going to be bringing in additional guests as their areas of specialty really come into play. So I definitely want to make sure everyone keeps tuned into this, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for watching.